welcome to Smaulgld in case you missed it. Top gold and silver stories for the weekend of December 10th, 2016. Today we are going to discuss the announcement of the Deutsche Bank silver manipulation case, the settlement of that case, and also explain what it means for the silver markets and what it means for silver going forward. Other things that happened during the week, in addition to Deutsche Bank settling its silver case for $60 million, the stock markets hit all-time high. The Italian government held a constitutional reform referendum. It failed. It was expected to fail, but not by such a wide margin. It was also expected to throw the markets into turmoil. It didn't. It was expected to crash the euro, to make gold and silver soar. None of that happened. Indeed, the euro went up for a while. The dollar ended up finishing near 14-year highs, and gold and silver went down. And the rationale for the gold and silver to go up was that it would create greater uncertainty in the powers of the Italian government, the EU, to handle Italian bank failures. And in a way, it was good news in that the Italian people rejected a further centralization of Italian power by rejecting the reforms to the Constitution. But in any event, just like Donald Trump's victory did not boost gold and silver, neither did this Italian referendum. The dollar, as I mentioned, is at a 14-year high as the Fed mulls raising interest rates next week. Let's discuss the Deutsche Bank silver manipulation case. I hear a lot of people complaining, a lot of people not quite understanding what happened, not understanding what might happen going forward. All right, so first of all, Deutsche Bank settled a private litigation case. This was a civil case brought by attorneys, probably on retainer, for on behalf of a number of traders who traded COMEX futures contracts and probably got stopped out or lost money in some fashion due to what they allege is manipulation by Deutsche Bank and other bullion banks who allegedly manipulate the markets. Now, Deutsche Bank settled the case. They settled a gold manipulation case and a silver manipulation case. The gold one went for a little higher than the silver one, but in both cases, they agreed to provide evidence of manipulation of their alleged co-conspirators. Now, since this is a private litigation, there were no jail sentences, there are no fines, and I know there's disappointment in that, but that's not how a private litigation case works. If you sue your neighbor for some violation, you generally don't sue to have them thrown in jail, and you generally try to recover the value of whatever the damage your neighbor might have done. That's a civil suit. There is, however, a separate, it was announced last year, I think it was March, you can click on the link here, DOJ CFT investigation. Now, we know in the past that European regulatory bodies, U.S. regulatory bodies, have all looked at the evidence and said nothing to see here. You can't infer intent just because they make a lot of stupid trades and because they drive the market down. Those cases are ongoing. Now, these two cases, the gold and silver cases, they actually got Deutsche Bank to agree to settle and to provide evidence against, and to pay also, and to provide evidence against the other bullion banks. The defendant bullion banks include all the big names, HSBC, Scotiabank, Barclays. There's a whole list of them. But this is what's different about this particular case. The plaintiff's attorneys not only put together all the evidence that they had, but that has been in the past rejected as actionable, meaning they show these irrational trades, they show this pattern of manipulation. Courts have said, okay, well, unless you show some type of intent to purposely manipulate the markets, just because somebody makes a lot of dumb trades, we'd have to arrest half of the world if it was based on people making bad business decisions. So with circumstantial evidence, and in most cases, in all cases, they've never pulled the trigger and said we find a violation. Now here, however, not only have they got Deutsche Bank in these cases to agree to pay and then to provide evidence, and what they've provided was released during the week, were 350 pages of documents that the plaintiff's attorneys got during discovery, including chat transcripts between Deutsche Bank and other banks, and 75 audio tapes. Now, the period of the class action covers between January 1st, 2007 and December 31st, 2013. What the plaintiffs are looking for, besides the money they got from Deutsche Bank, are treble damages, disgorgement of profits, and restitution. And the basis of their complaint is that these bullion banks, along with Deutsche Bank, engaged in price fixing, big bid rigging, restraint of trade under the Sherman Act. Now, the Sherman Act is I think it was in 1898, it's an antitrust law act, and it allows for treble damages if you can find that the defendants restrained trade. And you can restrain trade by price fixing, bid rigging. You're interfering with how the market would naturally operate. Also, the basis of the complaint was false reporting, fraud, manipulation, aiding and abetting. Now, aiding and abetting is each other in the furtherance of this manipulation. And the Commodities Exchange Act also has provisions against things like fraud and rigging and manipulation and so on. And also for unjust enrichment under New York law, and that would only cover some of the defendants. And unjust enrichment means they got to give back the money that they made that they shouldn't have made because they engaged in this unlawful behavior. Now, what the plaintiff's attorneys managed to get from Deutsche Bank is what they call smoking gun evidence. It shows the traders discussing on many occasions smashing silver. Oh, we smashed it today. Hey, let's go smash silver. And put together, this type of evidence is very compelling because you see amongst the trading uh, participants the way they talk to each other. They're from different houses, different investment banks, talking about what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, agreeing on a direction, the timing of these silver trades. And the plaintiff's attorney reasonably concludes that because of these efforts that the traders engaged in, the price of silver during that period, December 2007 to January 2007 to December 31st, 2013, the price of silver was inconsistent with supply and demand dynamics of silver or any other macroeconomic factors. It just went down, and it went down because of the manipulation. Now, I don't know how they cover the period from January 2007 to April 2011. It went up then, but then of course they show how the price also went down from 2011 to the end of 2013. But they show that the defendants executed coordinated trades, especially these large transactions when the silver market was illiquid. So they'd get together. You'd see this in the chat transcripts that they have when they know nobody's trading. And then they all decide to, boom, trade at the same time. They had an 11 o'clock rule that they referred to. They all short silver at the same time. 3, 2, 1, boom. They refer to each other as mafia. So the plaintiffs put together a very nice case. They have charts showing consistency of manipulation. The difference this time is rather than just showing this kind of circumstantial evidence, like look what happens at 11 o'clock every year, look what happens over here, look at this chart says this. Now they can match the words of the traders, their own words, to the actions that they show on the chart. And that, I believe, can help show the intent that they were never able to show before. Because if all you show is a bunch of charts with circles and arrows and to be used as evidence against them, that's circumstantial evidence, and they could say it's just as easily something else. Well, not if you have the traders' contemporaneous chats saying, here's what we're going to do, here's when we're going to do it, 3, 2, 1, boom, and then you see the chart and you see what happens. Well, now you know that they were able to effectuate their scheme. So I would think now what they want to do next is they also want to get more information now from the DOJ CFT investigation. They'll get that through discovery. And in this latest filing, they request damages. They want a ruling of violation of the Sherman Act, because if they get that, then they get treble damages. They want to restrain these banks and their actors from doing it anymore. And they want a jury trial on issues that are so triable. And just bear in mind, though, this is all very good news for proving manipulation of silver. What it's not going to prove, though, the plaintiffs are not alleging that these traders engage in manipulation for any other reason other than for gain. They don't allege that they're acting on behalf of the Federal Reserve or the U.S. Treasury or anyone else to manipulate silver lower. They're alleging that they did this to make themselves money and that they manipulated the market. So there is a distinction there. Why they're doing it, it doesn't seem to be any evidence that they're doing it at the behest of anyone other than the fact that they could do it and they could make money doing it. It was a lot easier just to short the market on many occasions. Just another note on COMEX. I know sometimes people say that the numbers that you see in the vault, that COMEX produces the numbers about how much silver or gold is in the vault, and it reads the information in this report is taken from sources believed to be reliable. However, the Commodities Exchange disclaims all liability with whatsoever with regard to the accuracy or completeness. This report is produced for information purposes only. Oh no, see, there it's proof. They won't stand by it's lying. No, that's when people get all excited over nothing. It's okay to get excited over fraud and manipulation at the COMEX. That particular paragraph, there's nothing to get excited about. Why? The CME group doesn't audit the third-party vaults each day to make sure that what JP Morgan, HSBC say is in there. So of course they put that disclaimer on there. They're not disclaiming that they're just running an operation of which they don't know anything about, and they just put out information like it's for amusement only. No, they have to put that's a legal disclaimer. It's a valid legal disclaimer. It doesn't mean anything. There's nothing nefarious in it. They're not trying to say that they're not paying attention. They can't audit the amount of gold and silver in each of the vaults. It's impossible. You cannot do an audit every day. So they have to take on the word of the each individual bullion bank how much they have in there. Now, it is perfectly reasonable, not to criticize that language, but it's perfectly reasonable to suspect that maybe the numbers that are produced are incorrect. But I wouldn't blame that one on the COMEX CME group because they have nothing to do with it. If JP Morgan says they have 80 million ounces of silver in their vault and they don't, I don't blame COMEX for that. I don't blame the CME group. I blame JP Morgan for making up numbers. But again, the COMEX cannot be responsible for what their participants say they have because they can't every day do an audit. Think about what it involves doing an audit. You have to look at all the bars, you have to look at all the numbers, you have to bring in accounts. It doesn't happen so you can do an audit every day. So that's why that language that I referred to is there. Oftentimes you hear people, they point to that language as some type of evidence of nefarious or wrongdoing at the COMEX. There is probably, but that's not one reason to point to it. All right, let's go to what else happened during the week. Top story of the week is this continual and incessant media obsession with fake news. Hillary Clinton, she emerged from hiding and she held a press conference. She was talking about fake news being an epidemic that the government must do something about immediately. I mean, all thoughts of First Amendment gone. First of all, fake news, if it's fake, it's still protected by the First Amendment. And the government's not supposed to do anything about fake news. Who's supposed to do stuff about fake news? The marketplace. If journalists do their job, people will read real news if it's trusted and it's real. They'll also read fake news if they have nothing else to read. And also, who decides what fake news is? This is I think, a very disturbing trend that somehow, and then of course they tie it to Russia. And the two are totally separate things. You can have fake news with Russia or without Russia. You can have fake news. Anyone can make fake news. It doesn't have to be Russian driven, but they're trying to connect the two, and they're bringing the two together. And then the whole idea is that somehow, because Russia and any fake news that's out there is connected to Russia, it's influencing our democracy, and that's a huge threat, and therefore the government has to get involved. What's another interesting thing, and this again goes to the mainstream media, I saw a quick thing. Alex Jones was rambling on about something, and he just started laughing in the middle of one of the things we were saying. But it sounds like he has information from Trump that going forward, press access will not necessarily be granted to who you normally think would it would be granted to. So there may be interviews with Alex Jones and Breitbart and other, and not interviews with CNN. We'll see. But it was interesting. He seemed to have some information on that as he was cackling to himself. You can click on that link. It goes directly to that story. Now, top economic stories of the week. The stock market marched higher in Obama's last month. Now, I think that's all because they're still painting the tape for Obama so they could say, look, he came in, I mean, he's still in control of the apparatus of government. He came in, everything was in the dumps, and when he left, the stock market was at all-time highs. Also, the Italian constitution referendum failed. We mentioned that, and Deutsche Bank settled their case, and as we just went through, the plaintiff's attorney released all that information. Gold and silver. Gold was down 1.4%. It was down from 11.77 to 11.59. Silver, it's up 3 weeks in a row now. Although it had been over $17 during the week, it did close the week at 16.82, up 0.05. And as you can see, finally, our gold silver ratio is coming down a bit. It was 73 just a couple of weeks ago. It's down below 70 now, not much below 70. It closed the week at 68.98 to 1. Again, if you're interested in gold silver ratio, you can always click, you can always check it out and see the gold silver ratio. Here's the chart of the week I want to show you. Shanghai Gold Exchange premiums jump. Now, they had been for the longest time, even after about the same. I mean, give or take a couple of bucks. But now the difference is spread in gold. So, for example, gold ended the week at 11.59, but it ended in Shanghai 11.93. So there was a $34 difference. You could see it in the chart, and then you can see the percentage difference. That's a 3% difference. That's fairly significant, where you can see it's kind of started to shoot up in the last month and a half or so. You can see it happen right here. November 24th, you're starting to see a differentiation between a wider spread between the US price and the Chinese price. Okay, here's your pitch for making a donation to smaulgld.com. I do appreciate that. A lot of people have sent in some donations. That helps keep the site going. Also, you can click to see all the other Smaulgld podcasts. There's a link there. You can sign up for Smaulgld updates just by clicking on the link or by going up to the top. I suggest that you do that. It's free. You get updates from Smaulgld in case the YouTube channel gets shut down. It'll happen without any notice. And also, I do send out from time to time special content just for subscribers. What else happened during the week? Okay, so we mentioned that at the beginning of the week, the Italians voted against constitutional reforms. Early December 5th, we released the Perth Mint silver sales. They were a little lower in November. This is the podcast. You can see it here. It's also the chart that goes with the podcast. Now, I released 3 or 4 YouTube videos during the week. They all got between 600 and 1200, 1500, whatever views, except this one. This one got 123 views. The problem, though, is that because of that, most people didn't get to vote in the poll, so you get a chance again. What is your preferred silver coin? A lot of people like these coins. These are the top coins, not rounds. These are just the coins. We're just doing a poll on the coins, and I don't even know what the results are up right now. So far, people seem to like, what do they like? So far, they like the American Eagle the most, and then the Canadian Maple Leafs, and then the Kangaroos. They only have 24 votes, so that's you get to vote on that if you go to the blog post. I'll put a link below, and then you can vote. If you're not sure which coin you're interested in, these are the Smaulgld information guides on each of the coins. You can click on those. You can also buy your coins through Smaulgld, through a variety of dealers. You can compare pricing and shipping. If you do, Smaulgld gets a small commission. That also helps the site out for those of you who wish to help out the site and are going to buy gold or silver anyway. I suggest you do it through Smaulgld. Other stories, a lot of issues, people concerned in India about gold confiscation, what's going to happen. We put out a news report, an update on that. You'll see that later on in the podcast, or you could just check out the YouTube video on that from December 9th. And we talked about how India is really stepping up the pressure on cash and on gold. You can get a more complete update on that on the December 9th blog post and podcast. We had some Fed chatter, Evans, Dudley, all these guys talking about it's kind of a done deal now that they're going to do a rate hike. It seems in December, so they're not really pushing that concept. They're just making general statements about the the state of the economy. But one thing to look for when they do raise rates in December is, I would imagine with the dollar index so high, they're not going to want to be talking about or give a very hawkish view going forward that they're going to definitely raise rates a few more times. Although you can dismiss it if they do, because that's what they said in 2016. They were going to do a series of rate hikes, 4 to 6, and then it was 2 to 4. Well, now it's going to turn out to be 1. So maybe they will open their big mouths and start talking a big game about raising rates more, but clearly they will have an eye on that dollar index, because if the dollar index gets too high, and then they don't get their inflation, and they just don't want the dollar to be very high. And if they keep raising rates, that's what's going to happen. Now they will if inflation starts to take off, then they kind of be forced to raise rates, but we'll have to wait and see. U.S. Mint sales updates, they kind of slowed down. It looks like they're almost done, if not finished for the year, selling gold and silver coins. We reported on them. It looks like silver eagles will finish about 37.61, gold eagles about 817,000, American gold buffaloes maybe will finish 212 or so. But you can see the numbers. You go to the blog post. You also got your buying opportunities to buy gold and silver. It looks like Fort Sumter coin will be the rarest one this year in the America the Beautiful coin. That one only sold 27,800. I don't know if they'll sell anymore. If they don't, then that one is the low mintage coin of the year. The highest mintage coin of the year was 105,000. I think it was the Shawnee National Forest in Illinois. Teddy Roosevelt sold 40,000. They did sell some platinum coins this year, about 22,000 platinum coins. Let me see if I even have the number there. Yeah, they sold 20,000 platinum coins, 1 ounce coins this year. They sold it back in June. We also reported for the first time on Kazakhstan. We're going to keep this chart current. Kazakhstan is the third largest gold buyer of central banks behind China and number one, Russia. And they're worth keeping an eye on. They added another 101,000 ounces of gold to the reserves in October. And they have 250 tons of gold. So we're going to keep an eye on them. There's a podcast that goes with what's going on in Kazakhstan. Speaking of central banks adding gold to reserves, China added none. Now, when I say China, and you'll get an earful if you listen to this podcast, China doesn't mean People's Bank of China doesn't mean China. People's Bank of China means People's Bank of China, and they didn't add any gold in the month of October. And it doesn't mean they're lying. It just means that in China there was gold that was being imported, gold that was being mined, gold that was being transacted on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. There just wasn't any gold going into the People's Bank of China. And if you listen to the report, you will get that told to you 6 ways till sundown. More stories here, nothing more opportunities to buy gold and silver. That's always good. And we mentioned this in the Indian report, but 15 tons of gold were sold in 2 days immediately following not the gold demonetization, it's the rupee demonetization. I have to fix that. And however, since then, gold sales are down 90% because they took all the cash out of circulation. So Indians don't have money or don't have cash to buy gold in the same way. Here's Zero Hedge link to a story where they reported on the Deutsche Bank story that reported on above. U.S. consumer confidence, according to the University of Michigan, very high. I think it's at a 11-year high, maybe since 2006 at 98. So much for Trump being a disaster. Initial claims have been low. They're still low. Let's see if there's anything else for the week you need to know about. Yep, there's the link in the podcast to the Indian gold import soar on eve of demonetization. There's a nice link here if you want to check out Prince Charles touring the Bank of England's gold vault. There's a lot of nice pictures there. It's an article from the Daily Mail. This one I have to hyperlink properly, This is where it says Wall Street Journal, Chinese buyers find bargains in gold. And of course, when the price goes down, Indians and Chinese love to buy gold when it's cheap. Why would you buy it when it's going higher? That's the US mentality, the Western mentality. Chase assets on the way up. Buy houses because they're going up. Buy stocks because they're going up. Don't buy them when they're on sale. Buy them when they're going up. And I believe that's it. Another pitch to make a small donation to Smaulgld. And thank you very much for listening. And next week we will, oh, I'll keep you in suspense. We got a lot of good stuff coming up next week. Thanks for listening.